This is The Alternative Edge, home of KBVU podcasts.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Joshua Tigas, and thank you for listening to The Positive Point, a podcast where I try to shed some light into your world. On this week's episode, I took some time to reflect over what I've created these past couple of months. It's been one heck of a ride, from countless hours typing up outlines and editing to randomly being hit with topics when I least expected it. I have learned so much throughout this podcast, not only about creating audio content, but about myself and the outlooks we have to have on life. Before I get any farther into this, I want to take a chance to say thank you. Throughout this episode, you're going to be hearing that a lot, but I want you to know every time I say it, I mean it with all sincerity and from the bottom of my heart. Without you, yes, you listening right now, I wouldn't have been able to go on this journey, and it was an honor to take you along for the ride. As I was contemplating if I wanted to do this episode by myself, I was struck with the thought, why reflect on this season by myself when I can do it with my biggest supporters? I know I've had my parents on an earlier episode this season, and I apologize for having a repeat guest, but this was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. I hope you enjoy this episode and have gotten some positivity from me this season. Whether it was some happy thoughts, some inspiring quotes, or some topics that made you shift the way you went about your days. At times, things got tough, and technical challenges are always fun to come across. But through these past couple of months, I have grown in more ways than I could have ever imagined. Thank you for welcoming me into your life, and I hope I have helped you out in one way or another. But don't go anywhere. We still have one episode to wrap up. So, without further ado, allow yourself to escape from your life for a little while and enjoy the season finale with my parents and myself. Well, Mom and Dad, here we are, the season 1 finale, and really just hearing that come out of my mouth just makes me kind of go into a state of awe, because I can't believe we're already at the season 1 finale of The Positive Point.
I know, it has really gone fast. Just kind of thinking back when you first had this idea kind of pop into your head, and when you kind of shared it with us, it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a lot, and this is just going to seem like it's going to take forever to get anywhere, and it's been awesome.
It's been great listening to the entire season, because you've always had a positive attitude towards everything, and I always try to be upbeat and stuff, and it's truly shown through all the episodes how you try and find the good in everything.
Yeah, and looking back, I would have never imagined I am where I am today with a podcast, and I'm so thankful for everything. This kind of just all goes back to what I was saying last week too with Angela on the episode of Thanksgiving. This is really me being thankful to everyone for tuning in, listening, hopefully getting some positivity, and then now just wrapping stuff up for a little bit of a break and getting ready for season 2.
Yes, it's been great. You have definitely had some awesome topics to talk about, and your guests have been amazing. I mean, they're all so young, and yet they have all provided so many words of wisdom to all of us.
And I guess I go back to it. Your very first episode, I was so excited. I couldn't wait. And that one just kind of sticks in my head because it was conversation. Well, no matter what conversation you're having, what the topic is, it's still a conversation. And somewhere in this 15, 20-minute podcast that you have talking with other people, there's always something that sticks with you to take along with you and make you think for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And even all the topics that I did talk about over the course of this season, they all just kind of hit me at random moments. It was really weird. People ask me, oh, how do you come up with the ideas for the podcast? And really, I don't know how to answer that, because it's at the most random times where the topics strike me. And then over the course of the next couple of days, ideas pop into my head over what we can incorporate to say to enhance that message of whatever topic popped into my mind. So there were times when coming up with topics got kind of challenging, where I was kind of running out of content. But then again, all it took was a simple shower to reflect, and boom, I had a new topic to talk about. So it was really at the most random times. But to kind of start off here, I think reflecting over this past season, we have to go back to where it all started, which was all the way back in May, earlier this year, when I was approached by a professor, one of my professors now, up at BV, and she asked if I wanted to be a member of the radio team. And instantly I was like, yes, I want to do this. And then they mentioned how I could have my own podcast. And then I was kind of stressing, like, oh man, I have to come up with my own podcast. But then the very next day, I think we were driving around and the idea of positivity just popped into my head right again, just like the topics that I was just saying. And one thing just led right to another. And I know you guys were there when all the ideas were just spilling out of my mouth. And the idea for this podcast was really coming to be a real thing. I was starting to get all my ducks in a row. And then all of a sudden, within 24 hours after I joined the radio team, I had an idea for my own podcast.
Yeah, that was really neat. It was amazing to see how you just kind of jumped on this, started acquiring your own thoughts, your own ideas. And it was funny, we would be talking and you would sit there, you would be typing something into your phone. You'd be making yourself a note, on something of that's just so you. Things, like you said, things did hit you randomly and you always you noted it right away. It was really neat to see the enthusiasm that you had to get this up and going.
Yeah, and I have to give a shout out here to the two people that really made this a real thing. Obviously, the professor that I just mentioned, Andrea France. Oh my gosh, she is one of the most amazing professors or teachers I've ever seen. She's so enthusiastic for me, and that really motivates me. And then also Omar, who is the station manager, the student station manager up there for the radio on campus. And he was really supportive of everything too, and always willing to give me the help I needed whenever I ran into any trouble. So they both really got this idea kind of rolling. They helped me get it rolling, and they offered so much support to me throughout the summer. And throughout the summer, even though I haven't seen them yet, and then also throughout this semester, just to help me along, help me learn all the ins and outs of everything. So I just want to give a quick shout out to them, because without them, I don't know if I would have had the success I have this season with this podcast.
It goes back to May when you came up with this idea, and I believe it was June you came out with the teaser. Stay tuned, it'll be coming out. You just kept coaching everybody along with it, getting everybody excited for it, because you were so excited for it, and I'm excited for it too. It's just amazing the amount of conversations you can have and the positivity that comes out of them. And it's little words of wisdom for people to take along with them and just reflect on for the week.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I've wanted to offer everyone through this season and through this podcast, was just what you said, that little uplifting. Maybe it's just one sentence that I say throughout the show, just something to stick with people and kind of give them that little boost that they need. So to kind of move over here, I have a question that I am very curious to know for you guys. So obviously you guys have listened to all of the episodes of the season, and I am very curious, what are your guys' favorite episodes?
For me, it's very hard to pinpoint one as being my favorite, just for the fact of the topics have been so awesome. Your guests that you've had for that particular topic have just been so spot on and provided and delivered, whether it's something that they have lived through, something they have gone through, or just something that, on a day-to-day basis that they try and, put themselves out there for. Going through kind of all the topics and stuff that you had, for me, reflecting on all the topics, it just seems like every topic, starting from the beginning to the one that you just had last week for Thanksgiving, it just kind of seems like they all kind of just flow into that Thanksgiving theme. To me, that's what I think is so neat about all of it. It's all of them together and how they just really work together with each other to get to that last one that you had for the season prior to your finale.
And I guess for me, Joshua, it'd have to be the very first one, the importance of conversation. Here you are building this up, getting this idea in May. June coming out with a teaser. July, a little more information. You're not even sharing it with mom and dad. We're sitting on like everybody else. But that first one, importance of conversation. If a person can't sit down with somebody else and have a heartfelt conversation, you're not going to get too far in life by yourself. You need other people around. You need to be able to communicate. I guess that one really sticks with me, maybe because it was the first one. I was so excited to hear it, but that one really means a lot to me.
Yeah, I love that you brought up that first episode, because with Sammy, I have to agree, that was a really good episode. And the one thing that sticks with me from that is optimistivity. Oh man, we have to go back and think about that, because optimistivity, I still love how that just rolls off the tongue. But recording that first episode, and nothing beats the feeling of walking out of the production room knowing that you just made something magical, because that was the feeling I had. And I was so excited for what the future of this podcast was going to hold. And here we are, wrapping everything up into one. I'm just still kind of mind blown by all of this, because this has all gone so fast and it's just been such an amazing adventure.
Yeah, it really has. And it's amazing too for us to kind of sit back and watch and see how you have grown and how you have developed with each one of these. I mean, you are awesome at sitting down and writing stuff and delivering what you have written. I mean, and that is just, I mean, every episode, you really dive deep into your thoughts, into your reflections, into your faith, and you provide amazing information, whether it's just a few words or whether it's a few sentences. It truly is words that is something that we can all just sit back and think on, and how we are going to use them. What are we going to do?
Yeah, I love that. And I know people are probably kind of curious what my favorite episode was. Kind of a tricky question for me, because I might be a little biased towards every single one of them. But if I had to pick out one specific one that I like the most, it would have to be this one right here. Episode 13, wrapping everything into one, because it honestly brings together all the episodes that I've already talked about. And I don't want to play favorites towards any of those, because I do believe each one of them has something very specific to say and very specific that people could get out of it. But I honestly think for my favorite episode, as of right now recording it, it has to be this one, because just reflecting over this past season and these past couple months gives me a sense of like huge accomplishment, because this is something that I've never imagined I'd take on. But here I am wrapping up my first season.
Yes, that's so true. I definitely can see where it is a reflection for you to say, hey, I've accomplished something, and it's huge because you have done an amazing job with this.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I just want to take a moment to run through all of the topics that I have gone through this year, and even all of the guests, to just say thank you to all of those people for coming on, giving me their time, and being willing to share their insight with the world. So first episode was the importance of conversation, like we just mentioned with Sammy. And second one was Less is More with Michael Schreck. Third, we had Chasing Your Dreams with Ashley. Fourth was Stepping Back with me. That's time that I took to reflect about starting off a new adventure with college. Episode 5, The Power of Music with Megan. Episode 6, The Beauty of Meditation with Jessica. Episode 7, Helping Others with, of course, you guys, mom and dad. Episode 8, Flexibility with Jackie. Episode 9, News for the Soul, which was kind of a little different than my typical episodes that I produce. I was with Joshua Wolcott. Episode 10, Pushing Through Tough Times with JC. episode 11, Distance with Kayla, episode 12, Thanksgiving with Angela, and then here we are, episode 13, the season finale, saying thank you with my parents and I. So that's a quick rundown of everything this past season. If people haven't listened to every episode, that's completely fine. I don't expect people to stay up to tabs on me completely. I understand that people have their own lives. But really, I just want to say thank you, especially to all of the guests who agreed to come on, because really without them, this wouldn't have been a thing. This podcast depends heavily on the guests that I have on. And I just want to say thank you to all of them who are on this season and people who could potentially be on in upcoming episodes in future seasons. So thank you to all of them. And of course, thank you to everyone for listening.
You had some pretty amazing people on, and we truly appreciate their thoughts and their support as well as what they have given to you and for the help that they have given other people and what they have been able to share.
Yeah, so before we wrap things up with our favorite quotes, I just want to talk about one little struggle that I've had this year with producing this podcast. So there was a stretch of about 3 or 4 weeks, so about a month, where every single week, whenever I went to record or edit, I ran into some technology trouble, whether it was in the production room, which is okay. I understand how things don't always work all the time. That's the beauty of technology. But then I also ran into the problem with my own external hard drive, with that failing and trying to struggle to get stuff off of that, because that's where I kept all of my information and recordings for my podcast. So there was a moment there where I thought the positive point might be dead because my external hard drive was dead, but I was able to get stuff over onto my computer and find a way around it and continue to get episodes out. So there have definitely been some struggles this season, but it's all been a learning experience. And honestly, I don't know where I would be today without those struggles. It kind of all goes back to topics that I've talked about over this season.
Yes, that's very true. As we all know, life isn't easy, life isn't simple, and it's a lot of times through those struggles. Sometimes some struggles are harder on us than what others are, but we definitely learn lessons through all those, and we begin to know how to deal with them in a positive way that can help us grow and help us to know that, hey, I can get through this. And those are times that we truly end up becoming thankful.
Yeah, and that wraps into the present person right now too, how it's important to know that eventually everything is going to fit into place and you're going to look back on the journey you took and just smile. That's what I'm doing right now. I can't wipe this smile off my face right now reflecting back. It's just such an amazing feeling. It feels good what I've created, and it feels good to know that I have a little bit of a break coming up. But that break is going to consist of getting stuff lined up for next season. So I'm excited to see what that brings. But to wrap all of this up, I know I could talk about this for hours upon end, but I know people have things to get back to in their own lives. So I want to throw it over to you guys quick. If you guys have another favorite quote, because I know you gave me one earlier in the season, but do you have another favorite quote of yours?
Well, I have a flip calendar that I look at every day. And this morning, for today, the quote kind of struck me. And it is to try to see the beauty in your own backyard and to notice the miracles of everyday life.
That is beautiful. And I also have one here that I want to give people as we wrap up the season and as we go into a little bit of a break. But first off, we have my dad here. Apparently he has one too that he wants to share.
We can't change what happened yesterday. We can only live in the present, and we can't live too far in the future because it hasn't arrived yet.
That is so true. I know I brought that up multiple times this season, and I love that quote. Yeah, but the one that I have, I think, is very fitting for the final episode of season 1 before we go on a little bit of a break. And it is, staying positive doesn't mean you have to be happy all of the time. It means that even on the hard days, you know that there are better ones to come.
Very, very true. Yes, I totally agree with that.
I love that quote, and I think it is the perfect one to end the season on. So I hate to see this episode come to a close, but all good things have to come to an end so new beginnings can start. And I think I'm going to go ahead and get ready to get started on season 2. So, Mom and Dad, thank you so much for coming on, reflecting over this past season. And to everyone listening, thank you for giving me your time, allowing me to enter your life, and hopefully give you some positive outlooks on things that might arise within whatever you go through. So here's wrapping up season 1, and we're looking forward to season 2.
Right back at you, bud.
Thank you. You got this.
I'm simply at a loss for words. Reflecting back on this past season brought back so many memories. It was kind of tough to have that conversation with my parents because we were all fighting back tears. Not tears of sadness, but tears of happiness, tears of accomplishment. If you would have told me 8 months ago that I was going to have my own weekly podcast, I would have laughed in your face and walked away. Not only that, but if you would have told me that I would have impacted people's lives in the way that I have, I would have thought that you were crazy. So the positive point of the podcast for this final episode of season 1 has to be 2 very simple words that carry more meaning than any others. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank each and every person who has tuned in. If you've listened to every single episode, or even if this is the first one you've tuned into, thank you for allowing me to enter your life. Positivity can be a very challenging mindset to achieve during certain things that we go through. But sometimes being positive is just shifting your mindset. Whether it's conversations you have, music you listen to, meditating, chasing your dreams, or whatever else I have covered this season, we can all pull a positive point out of every situation that we endure. And when things become too much, I hope you're able to use some of the things that you might have heard over the course of these 13 episodes. But this all wouldn't have been possible without the people that have been right by my side. For starters, there's my parents, who have always been eager to know the next topic and guest that I have planned. But I can't leave out my sisters, who live a very busy life of their own, but still take a chance to listen to their little brother. From my intermediate to distant family, thank you doesn't even begin to sum up my gratitude for you in my life. The endless amount of support that you offer gives me the motivation when I need it the most. I'll be honest, there were times when working on this podcast wore me out, and I was questioning if I should just end it. But it was because of you guys that I kept pushing. To all of the people that reached out and expressed their interest, thoughts, or even how some episodes helped them, thank you for reaching out, because that has filled my heart with so much joy. At times, I was questioning whether I was actually making a difference, but whenever that thought would cross my mind, the very same day, someone would reach out and tell me how a little snippet from an episode helps them through something. It's because of you that I have been able to do what I do and discover this new love of mine. I can't wait to see where season 2 is going to take us, but I know one thing for sure. It's going to be one heck of a positive ride. As the season 1 finale begins to come to a close, I want to reiterate what I've been saying all along. Thank you for tuning in and giving me the chance to spread my thoughts into your world. I hope I have helped you out in one way or another, because whether you know it or not, you have helped me out in more ways than you can imagine. It's because of you that I'm able to grow, and for that, I will forever be thankful. Thank you for an amazing season. And here's to round 2. Thank you for tuning in this season. It truly means a lot to me. I hope you have a blessed, happy, and positive upcoming holiday season. Make sure to tune in next year for some more positivity, and pay attention to the later half of January, because that's when I'll be releasing some new information and episodes for season 2. Until then, don't be afraid to reach out. I hope you enjoyed the season finale of season 1. And as always, feel free to DM me on Twitter at thepositivepoi2. That's the positive POI 2. Or Instagram at thepositivepoint_podcast or send an email to thepositivepointpodcast@gmail.com to share a random act of kindness or uplifting deed that you did for someone else, or they did for you. Or maybe it's something you saw someone else do for another person. Reach out to me and share the story. Who knows? Maybe you will be the next positive point of the podcast. Until next season, this is Joshua Tigas. And remember, for one final time, keep it positive.